We are going to discuss on chapter 25, rational expectations, implications for policy. Here, Lucas challenged usefulness of econometric models for policy evaluation. Critic follows from rational expectation implication that change in way variables moves. Changes way expectations are formed. Policy changes relationship between expectations and past behavior. Estimated relationship in econometric model change, therefore can't be used to evaluate change in policy. Example, evaluate effects on long rate from bank policy raising short-term interest permanently if it is in past changes in interest quickly reversed. Estimated term structure relationship indicates only small change in long run. Once realized short interest rate increases permanently, average future short rates increases a lot, long rate increases a lot. Another implication of Lucas' analysis is that expectations about policy influences response to policy. New classical model assumption. Rational expectations wages and prices completely flexible, adjust fully to changes in expected price level. This means that wages and prices changes due to expectation or expected changes in price level. The implication for this is policy ineffectiveness proposition. Anticipated policy has no effect on business cycle, according to them. Effect of policy are uncertain because depends on expectations. That is how policy affects the situation or activities, economic activities. It all depends on expectations. No beneficial effect from activist policy, that is supports non-activists. Response to unanticipated policy in new classical model. Given this graph where aggregate price level is plotted against aggregate output, as AS expected price level is equal to P1. What we are interested here is that, look, the money supply increases, AD shifts right to AD2. Because money supply increases, unanticipated increase in money supply, expected price level become unchanged as AS stays at AS1. We have to repeat this. In unanticipated increase in the money supply, the AS curve stayed at AS1, no change. When we go to 2, Y increases and also P increases. Response to anticipated policy in neoclassical model. Here, the change or disparity or the differences we can point here or observe here is that M increases. As M increases, that is the money supply, AD shifts right to AD2, yes. Money supply anticipated, expected price level increases to P2 as AS shift to AS2. AS shift to AS2 because it is anticipated. When we go to 2, Y output unchanged, but price level increase by more. And you look at it from the previous one, look at it, increase by more. These are the points to take note. New Keynesian model assumption, rational expectation, wages and prices have rigidity. They are so rigid, unlike the other one that we said they are flexible. don't adjust fully to changes in expected price level. The implication for this is that unanticipated policy has larger effect on Y than anticipated policy. Policy ineffectiveness does not hold. Anticipated policy does affect Y, but does not rule out beneficial effect from activist policies. However, effect of policy are affected by expectations. Designing policy is tough. Response to expansionary policy in New Keynesian model. These are point panel A and B. When we look at it, response to an unanticipated expansionary policy and response to an anticipated expansionary policy. When money supply increases, AD shift out to AD2 in panel A. Panel A, money increases unanticipated as AS stays at AS1. Go to U. Output increases and price increases. This is it. But the AS curve remain the same as increase in this, and YU is greater than YN. Panel B, the anticipated increase in money supply, AS shift to ASA, from AS1 to ASA to AS2, and look at it, point A. Not all the way to AS2, go to A. Y increases by less than in panel A. That is it. By less than. This is the by less than in panel A. In panel A, but price level increases by more. Look at it. Increase by more. Summary: there are three models. Okay, let us start from this point. Response to unanticipated expansionary policy model. Traditional model: output increase, price increase. But response to anticipated expansionary policy, output increases, price increases by same amount as when policy is unanticipated. Can activist policy be beneficial? Yes, according to the traditional model. Response to unanticipated inflationary policy: decrease in output, decrease in inflation. Response to anticipated anti-inflationary policy: decrease in output, decrease in inflation by same amount as when policy is unanticipated. Is credibility important to successful anti-inflationary policy? No, according to the traditional model. But neoclassical macroeconomic model: output increases, price increases. Y unchanged. Price increase by more than when policy is unanticipated. That is its response to anticipated expansionary policy. While can activist policy? They said no, it cannot be beneficial. But response to unanticipated anti-inflationary policy, they said more output, decrease in output, decrease in inflation. But Y unchanged. Inflation decreases by more than when policy is unanticipated. Is credibility important to successful anti-inflationary policy? They said yes, as the opposite of this. While Keynesian output, increase in output, increase in price level. Response to anticipated expansionary policies: output increases by less than when policy is unanticipated. Price increase by more than when policy is anticipated. Can activist policy be beneficial? Yes, but designing a beneficial policy is difficult. That's what they believe. Yes. Response to unanticipated anti-inflationary policy: decrease in output, decrease in inflation. Their response that output decreases by less than when policy is unanticipated, and inflation also decreases by more than when policy is unanticipated. So it's like on the credibility side, the neo Keynesian classical macroeconomic model and a new classical macroeconomic model and neo Keynesian they are superior. But here traditional and neo Keynesian are superior, only with but slight changes. Designing policies more complex, and they are all common and agree with this response to unanticipated expansionary policy. Response to expansionary policy in the three models. That's what we have already finished explaining. And so also another analysis of figure response to expansionary policy in the three models. Then we just add a little bit. Increase in money supply. Increase in money supply, aggregate outward. Demand shift outward. That is increase in money supply, aggregate demand shifts outward to AD2. Traditional model, according to the traditional model, AS stays at AS1 here, whether money supply increases anticipated or not, go to 1 prime, and output increases, so also price increases. Neoclassical macroeconomic model, unanticipated increase in money supply, AS stays at AS1, go to 1 prime, output increases, price level also increases, but unanticipated increase in money supply, AS shift from AS1 to AS2 and go to 2, Y unchanged. Okay, price level increased by more. Look at it, this is the distance compared to this. While the neo Keynesian unanticipated increase in money supply, AS stays at AS1, go to 1 prime, output increases and also price increases by more, like this. When you look at it, this is traditional model anti-inflationary policy in the three models. Anti-inflationary policy in the three models: ongoing inflation, so moving from AD to AD2, AS to AS2, 0.1 to 0.2. Anti-inflationary policy, anti-inflation policy AD kept at AD1. The traditional model in panel A, AS to AS2, whether policy anticipated or not, go to 2 prime, 0.2 prime, and output decreases. Inflation also decreases, while in the new classical macroeconomic model, unanticipated AS to AS2 go to 2 prime. Output also decreases and inflation also decreases. Anticipated AS stays at AS1, stays at 1, this point 1, Y unchanged, and inflation decreases to 0, while the new Keynesian unanticipated AS to AS2 go to 2 prime. Output decreases by less and inflation decreases by more. Credibility and Reagan deficit. Reagan deficit may have made 1981-1982 recession worst after Federal Reserve anti-inflationary policy. The analysis with figure 28 to 6 or 0.6 anti-inflationary policy kept AD at AD1, Fade's anti-inflationary policy less credible, so AS kept rising to AS2, go to 2 in panel B and C. Output decreases by more than if anti-inflationary policy credible. Impact of rational expectations revolution. First, more aware of importance of expectations and credibility. Lucas' critique has caused most economists to doubt use of conventional econometrics models for policy evaluation. That is to say, based on Lucas' views, most economists, conventional economists, doubt about the use or the importance or benefits of using econometric models in policy evaluation. Since effect of policy depends on expectation, economists less activists. Policy effectiveness proposition not widely accepted. Most economists take intermediate position that activist policy could be beneficial, but it's tough to design. That is, designing policies are very difficult. Thank you, and this is the end of today's lecture. Once again, thank you.